Alrighty, hello everybody, James Cards FC here, and today I wanted to do a video specifically talking about the soccer card market and the current reset that we're at sort of in the market, how we got here, where do we go from here with all the doom and gloom in the market going on. I really wanted to talk about how we got to the point that we're at right now and sort of how I see the outlook at this point given all the factors that are going into it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with today's video. We're going to go over a few different things about the market today. So let me move myself back up here. And we'll go ahead and get started. So, doom and gloom is the first slide. Over the past week, I've seen a sharp increase in the fear sentiment on the market. Both, I wouldn't say there was fear in my personal video about the market. I was more specifically talking about factors at play and how pricing interacts with the market and stuff like that. I wasn't really trying to incite fear. But in particular, a lot of YouTube channels now are talking about how bad of a place the market's in and how bad it's going to get and all these things like that. Sports Card Investor in particular put out his most negative video in his channel's history, at least in my opinion, over the past couple days. If you haven't watched it, I would definitely go ahead and do so because I think he has a lot of great points about what's going on and how he sees the future outlook for the market. But obviously, of course, he's super biased because of all the money that he has in this market. But still a really good video, and I would check that out if you haven't already. New product is struggling to sell. Breakers are having trouble filling breaks. Card shows are dying. If you watch any card show vlogger, they're pretty much always complaining about how empty these shows are, how there's not a lot of money on the floor. I could do a whole video on why I think card shows are dying. I personally don't go to card shows anymore because it's just too expensive. Back in 2020 or 2021, flights almost anywhere in the country, if you were flying out of a main hub, were anywhere from $50 to $100 complete round trip. Hotels were really cheap, and now if I want to fly to Dallas or something like that, it's going to cost me $300 and then $200 for a room. And if there's not enough money in the room trading hands, it's not going to be worth it to go to one of these shows. So in a general sense, that's why shows are dying, and of course there's less interest in the market in general. And prices are declining as the economic situation continues to look bleak, both in the United States and abroad as well. So, cards have been going down for nearly a year at this point, but a consensus we're in huge trouble opinion has not been reached until very recently, at least in my opinion. Market has been down somewhere around 60 or 70% from its highs, but all of a sudden over this past couple weeks, we've really started seeing this, oh my God, we're in huge trouble realization, which is interesting to me because cards have been going down pretty substantially for the past year. But it just so happens that now we're really starting to hit the panic button. So I want to take some time today to talk about how we got to where we're at in the market, what might be on the horizon, and how it relates to soccer cards in particular, since that's what this channel and I myself am most interested in. So of course, don't take this video as financial advice. Please, thank you, all that disclaimer fun stuff. This is not financial advice. On the right-hand side of the screen, this is the chart that I'll be focusing on today. This is what we call the market cycle chart. It's a theoretical representation of how pretty much all markets work. And so the soccer card market in particular would follow, at least in theory, this same sort of market. And the question I pose, if you want to go ahead and pause the video before I get into this, is where do you think in this chart we are at today? Which point on the chart are we? Alrighty, and with that, we'll go forward. If I can get the slides to go. Okay, let's talk about the soccer card market cycle. So on the top here, I have the sales history of the 2014 Prism Messi and Ronaldo card in PSA 10 condition, its pricing history, as well as the theoretical market cycle. So this card and its pricing history actually mirrors that market cycle pretty well. 2019 to 2020 was the optimism and excitement phase of discovering a new possible market. People were saying things like, wow, there's soccer cards and they're super cheap. That's actually how I got into the soccer card market. I was looking at basketball and football and playing a bunch of FIFA, and you look at the soccer card market and wow, this is really cheap in comparison to guys like Luka and Trey. You had guys at the time like Rashford and Sancho that were a couple dollars when Luka and Trey were hundreds. So yeah, it didn't make any sense why soccer cards were so cheap. So the optimism and excitement phase began then. Then we move all the way forward into early to mid 2021, where you have the thrill and euphoria phases as prices climb to new all-time highs. You see Messi cards going insane. You see this card in particular rises from not even really having a market to being worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And so now everybody that was in the market before that are saying, wow, I'm smart. I knew soccer cards were undervalued and they're going to the moon. And even at this point, people thought they were still going to keep going up because they were still undervalued in comparison to everything else in the market. So this sentiment changes in late 2021 to early 2022, where you have the anxiety, denial, and fear phases start to set in as prices fall from the peak. You have people saying things like these are temporary setbacks, they're long-term investors, the market's going to come right back, it's just a general down period because things got overheated. But what actually happened is, of course, the prices continue to drop lower and lower as the economic situation gets worse. There's less money in the card market, less people in the card market, COVID's over, so everybody starts to spend money on real life things and they're not locked up in their rooms anymore. A lot of factors going on here that contribute to the continuing downward spiral of the market. So then we move to where we're at currently, which is mid to late 2022, where we're in, at least in my opinion, the desperation, panic, and capitulation phases. These have set in as prices are falling even further. You have people saying things like, how could I have been so wrong in relation to our market specifically? You'd have people say things like, no one actually cared about soccer cards. This was all a pump and dump market. That's a very popular use phrase now, right? Marvel's a pump and dump market. Non-sports are a pump and dump market. I'm sure we'll get to a point where people talk about soccer being a pump and dump market. That was never really a thing. So yeah, this sort of sentiment's on the market right now. Everybody thinks they were stupid to ever value these things and that nobody's going to care about them again. So that, at least in my opinion, is where we're at currently. I don't think we've reached the despondency point yet. I don't think we're at the absolute low, but of course that's all just personal opinion and there's no way to know when we're going to reach the absolute low. So let's talk about the good and the bad news of the market cycle that we are in currently. So in terms of good news, unless the market is a complete scam and nobody in reality ever cared about soccer cards and this was literally a pump and dump, there will be a recovery in the future. If you believe that soccer cards do have value in terms of being collectible pieces and there'll be collectors that enter the market and people do love to have these things in their collections and they're not just being passed around as a sort of a dollar alternative to just try and make more money off of, then there will be a recovery in the future. If this was all literally just people using them as money trading vehicles and the market is 99% flippers, then yeah, we're in some deep trouble, but I don't believe that to be the case. So the most depressing parts of the market cycle is also where the point of maximum financial opportunity exists. So the closer to the bottom you get, obviously the better position you'll be in when the market does recover in the future. So you make the most money in down markets as opposed to buying at the top. In fact, the adage is that you should be buying low, selling high, not buying high and trying to sell higher. So we're getting to points right now that may be buying low. Of course, there's never a way to really know, but you're definitely buying lower than you were at any time previously, except if you were in here before 2019 or so. It's also great for pure collectors or people that want to open boxes at lower prices and stuff like that. So if you want to buy a bunch of Bayern Munich cards from the current club, it's pretty easy to do so because prices are getting really, really low. If you want to open new product just for fun, you're going to be able to do that at a lot cheaper rates. If you want to grade things for your collection, grading is going to continue to get even cheaper. So all things right now are great for the pure collectors in the market. So that's a good sign for the people that do enjoy that part of the market in particular. And obviously, since the market needs collectors being happy is a great thing. On the bad side, we have the fact that this might not be the bottom yet. While we are in the down market, I'm not exactly sure, and there's no way to know which of these points we're actually at and how much further the bottom actually is. Also, the recovery might not be for a while. It could be years at this point. It could be decades. We have no idea. The global economic situation is very bad, and cards are unlikely to increase in a terrible financial market because you can't eat cards, you can't shelter with cards. I guess you could burn them for fire if it gets really bad. But other than that, there's no real utility to cards. These are luxury items, luxury goods, collectibles. And so unless the market is doing well, I find it very difficult for these things to increase in value. So again, where are we at today? I think we're in that capitulation and panic-ish area. Don't think we're at the bottom, but the future will tell exactly. So strategy reset. Let's talk about strategy based on what we know about where we're at in the market right now, or what we assume we know about where we're at in the market right now. So cards can still go up. This is something really interesting. The Holland 2019 Topps Chrome Sapphire and PSA 10 is actually up 90% in the past 3 months. Now, not all Holland cards are up 90%. You had to specifically target and pick this correct set for it to be up 90%. If you look at his finest, or if you look at his Topps Chrome Bundesliga, they're not nearly up 90%. But if you correctly selected this set and this card, you would be up 90% over the past 3 months. And then on the other side, I have Gabriel Jesus, is his Topps Chrome 2017 refractor in PSA 10 condition. This went from $38 to $45 to $100 to $150, and now it's settled more around that $100 range. So his market has just around doubled since moving to Arsenal and playing really well there. So cards, especially on the ultramodern side, can still increase if a player performs, or outperforms rather, their previous expectations. Haaland was not expected to have the best start in Premier League history, so his prices have responded now that he has done that. Gabriel Jesus was not expected to transfer to Arsenal, and then he was not expected to be a star at Arsenal, so his prices have responded to both of those things, and you see the increases in his market. So it's not going to be as simple as it was in 2020 and 2021, where you could have literally bought any player and just wait for more money to be added in the sports card market and then sell for a huge profit. There's a great example of this. Marvin Bagley was a bench player for the Sacramento Kings, and his Silver Prism card went up with the general market despite him never playing any real minutes for the Kings. His card went up like 3x, and that's just because the market went up 3x. He didn't actually do anything. So literally, you could have bought any player in 2020 and early 2021 and made money. So that's not what this market is anymore, and it's unlikely to be that way until very far in the future if we ever have another boom. So we need to get that out of our heads. That's not a normal thing, and it's probably not going to happen again. So in this current iteration of the market, you need to get lucky with a player vastly outperforming their market expectation. And of course, this is much harder for established players to do, talking about guys like Messi and Ronaldo and guys of that nature, Kevin De Bruyne, guys like that, since they have so many slabs on the market already and so much of their success is already priced in. So for example, like I did in my previous video, if Messi wins the World Cup, I'm afraid that's already priced into a lot of his stuff, and it doesn't really add to his legacy in a way where more people suddenly think all of a sudden that they need to have Lionel Messi cards. I'm pretty sure they would have bought them already. So in this current iteration of the market, I think the only guys, and I'd be careful saying only, I think the most likely guys to see these 100% increases are the guys that are the prospects or the players that are decent that end up becoming Ballon d'Or level players, or in the case of Gabriel Jesus, a player that's like a rotation player for one team and then goes on to being a star at another big club. So guys like that, I think, are where you're going to see the massive increases. I don't think you're going to see massive increases for guys like Messi, Ronaldo, Kevin De Bruyne, Luka Modric, guys like that, because just so much is already priced in. Let's talk about long-term holds for this strategy reset. I'm titling this long-term holds in air quotes, need to be looked at as true long-term holds. So this is taken from one of my favorite videos ever about the sports card market by Sports Card Anonymous. Unfortunately, he doesn't create content or videos anymore. I believe he's taking a break because he just had a kid, but his content was really good, and he had a video during the height of the market when he talked about the Michael Jordan Fleer PSA 10 and BGS 9.5, and how when it was selling for, at the time, $500,000, it didn't make any sense for it to be this high. At a time when the market was really saying it should go even higher, he was saying this doesn't make any sense and it's going to crash. So he talked specifically in his video, which I probably should link to below, about the Michael Jordan PGS 9.5 Fleer rookie card. So from 2006 to 2018, this card was actually down. It went from $8,000 to $8,000. It was flat or down for an entire 12-year period. Ignore those random spike in prices in late 2016. Obviously, that's not a real sale because that doesn't make any sense for it to go up. I don't even know what that is, $30,000 in one sale. Yeah, obviously that's not a real sale. But for the most part, it stayed flat or dropped over a 12-year period. Why did that happen? It's because BGS got passed up by PSA during that time frame, and the card market was stagnant in growth for almost that whole decade. And the question is this the new norm that we're going to be headed for? Is it not the crazy spikes that we saw over the past year, or is it more something like this where you're waiting for a boom like that to occur, hopefully at some point in the future? So When people, myself included, talk about pre-modern and vintage soccer cards, we refer to these as long-term holds in air quotes, but they really need to be looked at as those long-term holds. So, outside of the 2019-2022 market explosion, most non-active player cards remained flat in the 2000s and 2010s. Since these players are non-active and cannot expand upon their legacy in real time and create a short-term demand increase like Haaland or Jesus through performance, their markets are dependent on new market participants. So rather than Pele being able to go out and score 3 goals and seeing his market take a 2x over a short time frame, you need more people to come into the market with more money to spend on Pele cards. So unless there are new market participants or more money in the system, the non-active players can't really go up because they can't get the interest pumped into them. I had a whole chart in my last video where I showed that Messi's PSA 9 rookie card exploded in 2019 to 2021 and then crashed way back down, and that has nothing to do with his performance and everything to do with the market factors at play. So, as I say in this last point, you're waiting for either another sports card boom in the next 10, 20, 30 years, or a gradual market participant increase for these cards to increase in price. And by these cards, I'm talking about the pre-modern and vintage iconic cards or just general cards. So like Cruyff stuff, Maradona stuff, Pele stuff, those kind of guys. You're waiting for either the next sports card boom or you're waiting for gradual market participant increase over the next long-term time horizon. These are not guaranteed to increase slowly over time. I know that's the general theory on the market is that, vintage and pre-modern, well, people don't really talk about it as pre-modern in other markets, but vintage and non-active players increase slowly over time. That is not a guarantee. That is not always the case. Look at this Jordan, look at this 12-year period where it actually goes down and understand that these are not surefire safe investments. So, moving forward with strategy reset, let's talk about assessing your current holdings. So at the beginning of 2022, many YouTubers put out videos recommending viewers to assess their holdings as the market began its downward spiral. So as things continue to fall down in this market, what do you want to be holding as we move forward into a longer term time horizon or as a few months forward and all that kind of stuff? At this point in the market, what do you really want to be holding is the question that you should be asking yourself. So, for example, base cards might never recover to their all-time highs, and if you're still holding base cards, is there something else you believe in more that you can consolidate into at this time period? Don't be afraid to take losses on certain cards in order to consolidate into something you believe in more for the future. This is a concept I've talked about many times previously on this channel, but I'll go ahead and throw up another example right here. So on the left-hand side, you have Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, and Mbappe Prism base cards from all of their first Prism cards, and this adds up to around $500 or $550 in value. You can have all of those, or you can have this Messi PSA 9 purple refractor from 2017 Topps Chrome that is numbered out of 250. So let's say you have all 4 cards on the left. Forget what you paid for them. It doesn't matter if you're into all these for a combined total of $2,000, $5,000, or $500. Would you rather have those 4, or would you rather have the one Messi card on the right for the future? Those are the types of questions you need to be asking yourself because at this point in the market, it doesn't matter what you paid for everything. All that matters is what you want to be holding going forward. And so when you start to look at your holdings or your collection or your investments, whatever you want to call it, start thinking about where that value could be put elsewhere. And then if you're comfortable in these being the best position for your holdings going forward. In this case, I would much rather have the Messi on the right-hand side of the screen than all the base cards on the left. But obviously, you'll do your own research and you'll make your own decisions. I just want to get this going as an exercise for how I would look at assessing my holdings. Okay, let's talk about James's crystal ball and why I'm still optimistic about the market in general. So, given the world financial situation, I think the down market could continue for the foreseeable short-term future. This could be 1 year, this could be 2 years, this could be 3 years. For the foreseeable short-term, I don't see a way that we get out of this economic situation rapidly. So, at least for the next 1, 2, or 3 years, I think we could still be in this down sort of market. The economy, however, will rebound at some point, and when it does, I believe that soccer cards are going to be in a great spot. So, a few reasons behind this. Number one is going to be Fanatics spent billions to take over the sports card industry, and they clearly believe that that's something they can get a massive return on their investment from, which would involve bringing in millions of new sports card market participants. While this may still be 2 to 4 years away from becoming fully operational, they still need to have all their operations set up. They still need to make all their acquisitions. These things take time. I am optimistic that Fanatics will massively market sports cards to a new audience, bringing us market participants. Fanatics obviously has huge marketing on their sports merchandise side, and they've pretty much conquered the entire sports merchandise market. So I assume a similar approach will be given to sports cards as they look to expand on that market and make a lot of money off of sports cards. So soccer is and will still be the world's biggest sport when we get out of this down market. There's also a chance that the market recovery will coincide with the 2026 World Cup in North America, and that sets up this situation where you have a recovering economy, Fanatics' fully operational sports card marketing system, and a World Cup in North America all happening at the same time. And I think if that does line up, that's a really good situation for the soccer card market to be in if you're willing to wait that long. So with all of this in mind, I'm trying to consolidate into a very short list of key or iconic cards that I believe will hold value if and when the market does recover, while also playing the buy raw to grade game, because that's how I enjoy the ultramodern side of the market. I will probably continue, maybe not in the capacity that I used to, but I'll continue still buying raw cards of prospects, grading them, and then putting them back on the market. That's just how I enjoy interacting with the ultramodern side of the market. There's a million ways to interact with the market. That's just the way I have a lot of fun with ultramodern myself. So, last point here is extremely important. As optimistic as I am in soccer cards, I would not prioritize them over traditional investments. I thought this would go without saying, but please look at S&P 500 returns and traditional stock market returns over the past long-term time horizons. It's something like S&P 500 investments have doubled every 7 or 8 years if you continue to reinvest in the S&P 500. So if you're not already well-versed in traditional investments, please start doing so. I think you're going to do yourself a world of favor prioritizing those over soccer and sports cards, because at the end of the day, these are alternative investments for a reason. I'm actually surprised. I go on social media sometimes, and I'm surprised by the amount of people that are putting a large percentage of their own capital or net worth in sports cards, or all of it in sports cards, as opposed to having traditional investments. I am not a financial advisor, but I highly recommend you getting in touch with one, especially if you have a lot of holdings that are specifically in sports cards, because traditional investments are traditional investments for a reason. I won't labor on this point too long, but please understand what traditional investments are out there and think about wealth building in that way. So let's go to the conclusion. The doom and gloom of sports card market and the soccer card market, I believe, is warranted given the factors that are currently impacting markets and prices. However, there are still some reasons to be positive. Active player prices, as I show in this video, still have the potential to increase rapidly if they exceed their expectations, and grail cards that have been thought to be out of reach are becoming more and more affordable by the day as we go into this down market. For me personally, there's some grail cards that I've been looking to buy, and they keep getting cheaper and cheaper. And if they keep doing so, eventually, thankfully, at least in my opinion, they'll get to a point where I might be able to purchase some things that I thought were going to be completely impossible in 2021. So it's also a great time to be a collector with low prices on new product and most players at realistic entry points, as well as the fact that it's going to be cheaper and cheaper for you to grade your collection. Fanatics also will soon be actively trying to make a huge ROI on their purchase of the sports card industry, and so over the next years, however long it takes them to set up this fully operational Death Star that they're building, we will hopefully begin to see the fruits of that labor in the form of new market participants and more money on the market. And again, last point here, soccer populations, especially in vintage and pre-modern, continue to be low when compared to other sports, while being far and away the biggest sport in the world. So soccer, in my opinion, is not going anywhere. The populations are going to continue to be low. Market participants at some point will come back. Fanatics will probably bring in a lot of new ones. And when we do get out of this current rut that we're in, I think we're in a great position into the future. The only issue, and I wouldn't call it an only issue, the big problem right now is the fact that we are in such a down market. So you're going to have to weather the storm. I think this storm is going to go on still for months and months, at least until the foreseeable future is over and we get ourselves out of this down market. But that's just the situation that we have set ourselves in. And while all that might be the case, I'm still very, very positive on the back end of what this will look like in the future. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I hope I could shed some light on why there's so much doom and gloom in the market, if it's warranted or not, and how I think this lines up with what may be going on further into the future. So I'm still a bit sour on the current time frame, but as always, as I've explained in many of my videos, I am very optimistic in the long term of this market. So go ahead, drop a comment if you'd like, leave a like if you like, feel free to subscribe for more content, and I will see you guys in the next video.